Alex had always wanted a break from his busy city life. The long hours at his job and the endless noise made him feel tired all the time. One day, he saw an ad for a quiet cabin up in the mountains. The pictures showed a small wooden house with smoke coming out of the chimney, surrounded by tall green trees and wildflowers. The ad promised peace, fresh air, and a chance to just relax. Alex thought it sounded perfect, so he booked it for a week and packed his bag with simple things. Some clothes, a few books, and snacks. He was ready for some peace and quiet. The drive to the cabin took almost half a day. The road twisted through thick forests, and sometimes Alex had to slow down for deer or rabbits crossing in front of his car. He enjoyed the view. The sky looked bigger out here, and the trees felt like old friends. When he finally arrived at the cabin, the sun was starting to set, painting the sky orange and pink. Alex took a deep breath, feeling the cool, clean air fill his lungs. It was so different from the city. Birds chirped softly, and the only other sound was the wind moving through the leaves. The cabin itself was even nicer than the pictures. It had a small porch with a rocking chair and a wooden door with a funny old lock. Inside, there was a fireplace, a small kitchen, and one bedroom with thick blankets on the bed. Everything looked clean and cozy. Alex put down his bag and smiled. For the first time in a long time, he felt happy. He made himself a cup of coffee and sat on the porch, watching the stars come out one by one. The night was so quiet, he could hear his own heartbeat. But as it got darker, Alex began to feel a bit uneasy. It wasn't fear exactly, more like the feeling someone was watching him. He tried to brush it off, blaming it on being alone in a new place. He locked the door and went inside, curling up with a book in front of the fire. Around midnight, just as he was about to fall asleep, he heard a sound outside, like soft footsteps, or maybe an animal moving through the trees. Alex sat up, listening. The sound came again, a little closer this time. He tried to ignore it, but curiosity got the better of him. Quietly, he walked to the window and looked out. At first, he saw nothing but darkness and the shapes of trees. Then, a flicker of blue light moved between the branches. Alex blinked, thinking he was imagining things, but the light flickered. Again, almost like someone was waving a small lantern. His heart beat faster. He wondered if there were other campers nearby, or maybe some lost hikers. Still, something about the light felt strange, almost too smooth, too steady to be natural. After a while, the light disappeared, and everything went quiet again. Alex told himself it was nothing and went back to bed. But he didn't sleep well. He kept thinking about that light and the feeling that someone or something was close by. When morning came, Alex tried to forget about it. He made breakfast and spent the day exploring the woods around the cabin. He found a small stream, watched squirrels chase each other, and even saw a fox in the distance. By the afternoon, he felt relaxed again and laughed at himself for being so jumpy the night before. That evening, as the sun went down, Alex made a fire and cooked some simple food. He felt at peace, alone with his thoughts and the sounds of nature. But as he was cleaning up, he heard a noise behind him, a quiet, almost musical humming sound. When he turned around, he saw her. A young woman stood at the edge of the trees, half hidden by the shadows. She looked unlike anyone Alex had ever seen. Her skin was a soft blue, and her eyes seemed to shine in the dark. Her hair was long and silver, falling past her shoulders like a waterfall. She stepped forward, moving quietly, and spoke in a gentle voice. "This is my home," she said. Her words were clear, but sounded a little odd, like she was still learning the language. Alex was too surprised to speak at first. He stammered out, I rented this cabin. I have the paperwork." He tried to sound brave, but his voice shook a little. The woman smiled softly and nodded, but she didn't seem angry. Instead, she looked at him with a mix of hope and confusion. "I know you," she said. "I have been waiting for you." Alex's mind raced. Was she lost? Was this some kind of prank? But there was something about her that made him believe she was telling the truth. Her eyes looked kind and old at the same time, like she had seen many things. She introduced herself as Lyra. Her name sounded like music. She didn't act scared or angry, only curious. She looked at Alex as if she was searching for something in his face. "You are not a stranger," she whispered. "You look just like him." The whole meeting felt like a dream. Lyra asked Alex if he remembered her. When he said no, she looked a little sad, but smiled anyway. "It's all right," she said. "You will remember soon." She showed him a smooth stone, shining with strange symbols. "You gave this to me once," she told him, "when we were together before." Alex touched the stone, feeling a strange warmth run through his fingers. For a moment he saw flashes in his mind, strange worlds, bright colors, a feeling of floating in the stars. Then it was gone. Lyra said she would come back to talk more. Then she disappeared into the woods as quietly as she had arrived. Alex stood there for a long time, trying to understand what had happened. Part of him wanted to run, but another part was curious. He wanted to know more about Lyra, about the stone, and about why she thought he was someone important. The quiet cabin no longer felt empty. Alex knew his quiet vacation was about to turn into something he never expected. The next morning, Alex woke up early, his mind still full of questions from the night before. Sunlight peeked through the window, but it did little to calm his nerves. He kept thinking about the blue-skinned woman named Lyra and her strange words. For a moment, he wondered if it had all been a dream. But when he looked on the small table, he saw the smooth stone with symbols lying there, just where she had left it. Alex picked it up and turned it over in his hand. The stone was real, cool and smooth, and as he looked at the symbols, he felt a warm tingling in his palm. Alex decided to look around outside, hoping to find some sign that Lyra had really been there. The woods were quiet, with only the sound of birds in the distance. He checked the spot near the trees where she had appeared, but there were no footprints, only leaves and moss. He shook his head, still not sure what to believe. He tried to focus on making breakfast, but he kept looking at the edge of the forest, half expecting her to appear again. As he ate, Alex heard a soft knock at the door. He froze, his heart pounding. When he opened the door, Lyra stood there, just as she had promised. She was wearing the same flowing dress, and her silver hair glimmered in the sunlight. Her eyes were bright, and she smiled gently at him. "May I come in?" she asked. Alex nodded and stepped aside. He realized she was barefoot, and her steps made almost no sound on the wooden floor. Inside the cabin, Lyra looked around with wonder, as if every small thing amazed her. She touched the books, smelled the coffee, and studied the firewood stacked by the fireplace. "Everything is so different now," she said softly. Alex offered her some coffee, but she just sniffed it and smiled, saying she didn't need food or drink like humans did. Instead, she asked Alex questions about Earth, about human families, and even about simple things like why people laugh or cry. Her curiosity made Alex laugh, and for a moment he forgot how strange the whole situation was. As they talked, Lyra told Alex more about herself. She said she had lived in the woods for a long time, hiding from people. Her voice was gentle, and her words sometimes sounded old-fashioned, like she was from another time or place. "I came here after a long journey," she explained. "I lost many things along the way." She looked at Alex with soft, searching eyes. "When I saw you, I knew I had found something I lost a long time ago." Alex tried to explain that he was just visiting, that he had never been here before. He even showed her the rental paper for the cabin, but Lyra only smiled. "Paper means nothing to the heart," she said quietly. She sat across from him and held out the strange stone. "Do you remember this?" she asked. Alex shook his head. "I found you once before I lost you." I have waited so long for you to return." Her words made Alex's chest feel tight. He wanted to help her, but he didn't know how. He asked Lyra if she had any family, but she just shook her head. "My people are far away," she said. "I am alone now, except for you." She looked out the window, her eyes sad but hopeful. Alex felt a wave of sympathy for her. Even if he didn't believe her story, he could see she was lonely. He wanted to be kind. So he decided to show her around the cabin and the forest. They walked together, and Lyra marveled at everything: the crunch of leaves under her feet, the birds singing in the trees, the sunlight shining through the branches. She looked at Alex as if he was the most important thing in the world. While they walked, Alex noticed something odd. Every time Lyra touched a plant or tree, the leaves seemed to turn brighter, almost like they were happier when she was near. At one point, Alex tripped on a rock and scraped his hand. Lyra reached out, her touch gentle and cool. As soon as her fingers brushed his skin, the cut healed right before his eyes. Alex stared at his hand in shock. "How did you do that?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Lyra smiled softly. "It is just part of who I am," she replied. Alex realized then that Lyra really wasn't human. When they returned to the cabin, Alex asked more questions. Lyra told him she was from another world, a place far beyond the stars. Her ship had crashed on Earth many years ago, and she had stayed hidden ever since. She said that on her world, people were connected by something called a soul bond, a deep connection that could not be broken, even by time or space. She believed that Alex was her lost mate, her other half, who had somehow been sent to Earth as well, but had forgotten everything. Alex didn't know what to say. It sounded impossible, but as Lyra spoke, he felt something inside him stir, like a memory trying to come back. He started having small flashes in his mind, images of a blue sky with 2 moons, of a field full of glowing flowers, and of Lyra standing beside him, laughing. He shook his head, trying to clear the images away. Lyra saw his confusion and squeezed his hand gently. "It's all right," she said. "Memories will come in time." The rest of the day passed in a strange mix of normal and unbelievable. Alex tried to act as if everything was fine, but he found himself watching Lyra closely. Her kindness, her way of looking at the world, and her gentle touch made him feel safe, but also curious. That night, as Alex got ready for bed, Lyra promised to stay close by. "I will not leave you again," she whispered. Alex lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind full of questions. He knew nothing would ever be the same after meeting Lyra, and deep down, he wondered if her story could possibly be true. That night, Alex could not sleep. Even when he closed his eyes, his mind kept turning over everything Lyra had told him. The room was quiet except for the soft crackling of the fire, but Alex's thoughts were loud and restless. He lay awake, for hours, thinking about the strange dreams he'd started to have since coming to the cabin. Dreams of a blue sky with 2 moons, a city that floated in the clouds, and a young woman with silver hair always reaching for him. In the dreams, he felt a strong connection to Lyra, as if they had always known each other. The images were bright and real, but every time he tried to remember more, they faded away like mist. As the night wore on, Alex finally drifted off to sleep. This time, his dream felt even stronger. He saw himself standing on another planet, holding Lyra's hand. They walked together through fields of glowing flowers, talking and laughing as if they were the only 2 people in the universe. Lyra gave him a shining stone and pressed it into his hand. "I will always find you," she whispered. Alex felt a wave of warmth and love so deep that he didn't want to wake up. But just as Lyra leaned closer, the dream began to slip away, leaving Alex alone with a sense of longing. When Alex woke up, the morning light was pouring into the cabin. He felt different, tired, but also strangely hopeful. He remembered every detail of the dream and found himself wishing it was real. After washing up and making some breakfast, he went outside and found Lyra sitting quietly near the edge of the woods, her knees pulled to her chest. She looked up when he came near, her face soft and thoughtful. "Did you dream again?" she asked. Alex nodded, and Lyra smiled, almost as if she already knew what he had seen. Alex sat down next to her, and together they watched the mist rise from the trees. He told her about the dreams, about the feelings and memories that seemed to come from another life. Lyra listened closely, her eyes shining with hope. "Your memories are coming back," she said gently. "The bond between us is strong, even here on Earth. We were meant to find each other again." Alex was not sure if he believed in fate, but he could not deny the feelings growing inside him. The next few days passed in a blur of strange discoveries and quiet moments. Alex spent more time with Lyra, asking her questions about her world and her people. She described a planet filled with light and music, where people lived in harmony with nature and could communicate without words. On her world, she explained, every person had a mate, a soul bond that was deeper than anything humans knew. She believed that when her ship crashed on Earth, something had pulled Alex's soul to this world as well, even if his body had been born here as a human. She said that was why she had recognized him, even though he looked different now. Alex listened with wonder, slowly accepting that Lyra's story might be true. He noticed that when he was near her, he felt a quiet strength inside himself, a sense that he was not alone. Sometimes, when Lyra touched his arm or looked into his eyes, he would see quick flashes in his mind. The feeling of flying through the sky, the sound of Lyra's laughter, and the bright light of another sun. Each time, the memories grew clearer, and Alex felt more connected to her. One afternoon, Alex and Lyra walked deeper into the woods to look for clues about her crashed ship. Lyra led the way, moving through the trees as if she had known them her whole life. They searched for broken pieces of metal or strange stones that did not belong to Earth. After some time, they found a hidden clearing filled with wildflowers. In the center, half buried in dirt and leaves, was a twisted piece of silver metal covered in symbols that matched the stone Lyra carried. She knelt beside it, her hands shaking. "This is from my ship," she said softly. Alex helped her pull the metal free. He could feel a strange energy coming from it, and when Lyra touched it, the symbols glowed for a moment, then faded. She explained that this piece was part of the ship's memory core, a device that could store and share information. If they could find a way to power it, it might help her send a message home or even restore more of Alex's lost memories. For the first time, Alex felt like they were making real progress, and he promised to help Lyra as much as he could. As the sun began to set, Alex and Lyra made their way back to the cabin, carrying the piece of the ship wrapped in a blanket. Along the way, Lyra told Alex more about their past together, how they had first met on her world, how they became bonded, and how she had searched the stars for him when he disappeared. Her voice was gentle and full of longing, and Alex listened, with his heart wide open. He still did not remember everything, but he knew he cared for Lyra and wanted to help her find a way home. That night, as Alex lay in bed, he thought about everything that had happened since he arrived at the cabin. He remembered the peace he had wanted when he booked his vacation, and he smiled at how different things had turned out. Instead of rest, he had found a mystery, a new purpose, and maybe even a love that crossed the stars. Before he drifted off to sleep, he held the smooth stone in his hand and made a silent promise to Lyra that no matter what happened next, he would not let her face the world alone. The next morning, Alex woke to the sound of birds singing and sunlight filling the small cabin. Everything around him felt more alive than ever. The events of the last days ran through his mind as he got dressed and went outside to find Lyra, already waiting by the porch, holding the strange metal piece from her ship. Her eyes looked hopeful and a little worried. Alex smiled and joined her, saying they should try to figure out how the ship's memory core worked. They brought the metal piece inside and placed it on the table. Alex tried to remember his own childhood memories of fixing radios with his grandfather. He searched the cabin for anything useful: batteries, wires, even a small flashlight he had brought for late-night walks. Lyra watched, curious but unsure. Together, they tried to connect the batteries to the memory core. For a long time, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, the symbols on the metal glowed softly, just for a few seconds before fading again. Lyra's face lit up with hope. "It is still alive," she said softly. Alex felt excitement too, even if he didn't fully understand what the symbols meant. As they worked together, the connection between them grew stronger. Sometimes, Alex would see flashes in his mind of himself working on machines, but the machines weren't from Earth. They floated, or they seemed to be made of light. Each time, the memories felt more real. Lyra seemed to sense what Alex was feeling and would squeeze his hand or give him a gentle smile as if to say she understood. The feeling of being alone faded for both of them. One afternoon, while they were working on the memory core, there was a knock at the door. Alex jumped, and Lyra's face went pale with worry. When Alex opened the door, he saw an old man from the nearby village. The man introduced himself as Mr. Walker, the owner of a small store in town. He said he had heard from others that someone new was staying at the cabin. "We don't get many visitors out here," Mr. Walker said, peering past Alex into the room. Lyra kept back, half hidden behind a curtain, her blue skin blending with the shadows. Mr. Walker asked Alex if everything was all right. He mentioned that people in the village had noticed strange lights at night near the cabin and wondered if Alex had seen anything unusual. Alex tried to sound calm and said he hadn't seen much, just some odd wildlife. Mr. Walker didn't seem fully convinced. "These woods hold secrets," he said, his voice low. "So you be careful, son." After Mr. Walker left, Alex locked the door and told Lyra it would be better if she stayed out of sight for now. Lyra nodded, her eyes sad but trusting him. Later, Alex walked into the village to buy more supplies. At the small store, the locals whispered to each other and stared at him. A woman asked if he was alone at the cabin, and a group of men talked about seeing blue lights in the forest. Alex realized people were getting suspicious, and he felt a little afraid for Lyra's safety. He hurried back to the cabin with groceries and told Lyra everything. Lyra listened and said she had always tried to hide but knew this day would come. "Humans are curious and afraid of what they don't understand," she said softly. "But you are different." As days passed, the tension grew. Some nights, Alex heard footsteps outside or noticed shapes moving between the trees. Once, someone even knocked on the cabin door late at night, but when Alex opened it, no one was there. He felt the pressure of living with a secret growing heavier. But through it all, Lyra stayed calm. She promised Alex she would protect him if things ever got too dangerous. While the outside world felt more threatening, inside the cabin, Alex and Lyra grew even closer. Alex found himself caring deeply for her and wanting to keep her safe. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Alex shared stories of his life, about his family, childhood, and the struggles he'd faced in the city. Lyra listened with wide eyes, amazed by the things humans went through. In return, she told Alex more about her own world, how her people valued kindness, connection, and how soul bonds were cherished above all else. The dreams Alex had continued to grow stronger. Every night, he saw more of his life with Lyra on her home planet, flying above the clouds, sharing laughter in the fields, and promising never to leave each other. The bond between them became something Alex could feel even when he was awake. It gave him strength and helped him face the worries outside the cabin. One day, They finally managed to power up the memory core long enough to play a short message. It showed a moving image of Lyra's world: tall blue trees, bright rivers, and a city made of shimmering towers. A voice in the strange language of Lyra's people filled the room, and for a moment, Alex understood every word. The message spoke of loss, hope, and a promise that no matter how far apart soulmates were, they would always find each other again. When the message ended, both Alex and Lyra were quiet, feeling the weight and beauty of the words. But not everything was peaceful. The rumors in the village grew. One afternoon, Alex overheard two men talking about going up to the cabin to see what's really going on. That night, Alex and Lyra stayed up late, listening for sounds outside. When footsteps approached, Lyra held Alex's hand and whispered that she would use her abilities to keep them safe. The footsteps faded away, and no one knocked on the door. Alex realized how brave Lyra was, and how much he wanted to protect her in return. Alex knew he had a choice to make. He could leave the cabin and return to his old life in the city, pretending none of this ever happened. Or he could stay and face whatever dangers came their way, standing by Lyra's side. As he watched Lyra by the fire, her eyes shining with hope and trust, Alex knew what he wanted. He promised her quietly, "I'm not going anywhere, not without you." Together they faced the uncertainty ahead, ready to protect their secret and their bond, no matter what the world outside might think. Ask ChatGPT. That night was one of the longest Alex ever lived through. Even though the fire crackled gently and the cabin walls were strong, he could not sleep. Outside, he heard the sound of branches breaking and voices whispering in the darkness. He could tell some villagers were out there watching the cabin, curious or maybe even afraid. Lyra sat close to him, her hands resting in her lap, her eyes full of worry but also a quiet strength. She whispered, "We will be all right, Alex. I am here." Her voice calmed him, and he realized he was no longer afraid for himself, but only for her. As the hours passed, the villagers slowly drifted away, leaving only the silence of the night and the soft light from the dying fire. Alex and Lyra sat, together, waiting for the sun to rise. They talked in quiet voices about what might come next. Lyra said she believed the memory core could still help her contact her home planet, but she was not sure how much longer it would work. "If I can reach them, they might send help," she said. "Or maybe they will help you remember everything about our past." Alex squeezed her hand and promised he would do everything he could to help her. The next morning brought a sense of relief. No one came near the cabin. Alex decided to take a walk to clear his mind. As he wandered along the stream, he thought about all that had happened in just a few days, how his search for quiet had led him to a secret he could have never imagined. He watched the water flow over the rocks and realized he was changing. He was no longer just a visitor. He felt more alive, more himself, and more connected to Lyra than he had to anyone in his life. When he returned, Lyra was waiting for him, with good news. "I think the memory core is almost ready," she said with a hopeful smile. Together they sat at the table, connecting wires and checking the power. As the sun set, the metal piece glowed again, brighter than before. Suddenly, a gentle humming sound filled the air, and a bright blue light shone from the symbols. A small hologram flickered above the metal, showing a map of the stars and words in Lyra's language. As Alex watched, more memories returned. He saw himself and Lyra flying through the stars, laughing and holding hands. He remembered their promise to always find each other, no matter what. Tears filled Lyra's eyes as she watched the images. "I remember," Alex whispered, feeling his heart race with a happiness he could not explain. He saw himself giving her the smooth stone, saw her waiting for him among the stars, and understood at last that their souls truly had been bonded. Even though his body was human, His heart recognized the truth. Lyra smiled and touched his cheek, saying softly, "You found me, Alex. We are together again." Just then, the hologram changed, showing a group of Lyra's people. They spoke, in her language, but somehow Alex understood every word. "If you are alive, send us a sign. We will help you return," the message said. Lyra's face shone with hope. She pressed her hand to the memory core and spoke her own message, telling her people she was alive, safe, and not alone. The light blinked in answer, and then the hologram faded away. After that, everything felt different. Alex and Lyra spent their days together, waiting and hoping for a response from her home. They talked about what they would do if help arrived. Lyra promised she would never leave Alex behind, and he promised he would stay with her, no matter what. The villagers still whispered about strange things at the cabin, but no one dared come too close. Alex did not care anymore. He felt stronger and braver with Lyra by his side. As the days passed, Alex and Lyra created a new life in the cabin. They fixed things together, went on long walks in the woods, and shared stories about Earth and Lyra's distant planet. Sometimes, Alex would still have dreams. This time, they were happy dreams of a future where he and Lyra lived in peace, maybe even traveling to her world one day. The sense of belonging grew with each day. Alex realized he had finally found the adventure and meaning he had always searched for. One evening, just as the stars started to come out, the memory core lit up again. This time, the message was clear and simple. Help is coming. Lyra cried tears of joy, and Alex hugged her tightly. They stood together on the porch, watching the sky. A few nights later, a bright light appeared above the trees. It moved in slow circles, shining down like a gentle beacon. Lyra's eyes filled with hope. "They are here," she whispered. The next morning, Alex and Lyra walked hand in hand into the woods to find the landing spot. They saw a silver craft among the trees, quiet and graceful. Lyra's people stepped out, smiling and speaking in warm voices. They welcomed Lyra home and greeted Alex as if he were one of their own. Lyra explained everything. How Alex's soul had found its way to Earth, how he had remembered her, and how their bond could not be broken. Her people listened with respect, seeing the truth in Alex's eyes. They offered to take Alex and Lyra to their world, or let them stay on Earth if that was what they wished. Alex looked at Lyra, knowing that his home was not just a place, but wherever she was. Together they made their choice, to begin a new chapter, together, wherever the stars might take them. The cabin, once just a lonely house in the woods, became the start of their incredible journey. As the days went on, Alex and Lyra shared their story with trust and hope, knowing that love could cross any distance and that sometimes the most impossible things could turn out to be true. The cabin stayed warm and full of light, a place of secrets, memories, and a new future waiting just beyond the stars. Alex no longer felt lost. He had found his true home, and the adventure of a lifetime had just begun.